the chemistry of the mind-body complex, including diet, physical activity, and meditation. These natural approaches to changing brain chemistry have been shown to have meaningful effects on alleviating stress and anxiety and improving mood and well-being. They are also integral practices of Kriya Yoga. We will discuss practical applications of these approaches in working to alleviate stress, worry, and anxiety in your life. And I don't know if you know it, but anxiety disorders are more prevalent than even depression in our culture. Right now, at any one time, about 20% or 1 out of 5 Americans is diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. That's a lot. Anxiety, when we think of it, it manifests as fear, as worry, as stress, as compulsivity. And whether we meet criteria for an anxiety disorder or not, I think we all experience some level of anxiety, even if it's not diagnosable. And anxiety can really negatively affect our lives, whether it's in the way that we relate to others or the way we relate to our work or even our spiritual path. Much of Kriya Yoga is about cultivating deep, very deep, profoundly deep states of relaxation while remaining acutely aware. And it's this notion of relaxed alertness that is really the key in meditation. When I came to meditation, I kind of thought of it as kind of getting zoned out and blissed out and not really being present. And it's through the process of practicing meditation over time that we realize, no, that's just sleepy, dull mind. That's not what we're going for. We want to move out of agitated mind, but where we often move to when we leave agitated mind is sleepy, dull mind. And we want to be in this middle place of being deeply, deeply relaxed, but very, very alert and aware. And that's an interesting combination. Maybe we'll come back and talk about this a little bit. It's important to know, first of all, that stress in and of itself is not bad. In fact, we know that stress can actually be healthy. It's when it becomes debilitating or when it goes on and becomes chronic stress that it becomes problematic in our lives. Fear is a normal response to a threat. But we're in an age where some of us are living with pretty constant chronic fear that doesn't turn off. Sometimes that's in the form of PTSD. Sometimes it's in the form of, very intense generalized anxiety. Genetics plays a part, or we might say past life karma, plays a part in determining who actually gets an anxiety disorder, how severe it is, what type of disorder it is, whether it's like generalized anxiety disorder, some compulsive anxiety or avoidance, maybe like a social phobia. So there are things that I want to talk about today that even though there may be what we would consider in science sort of a genetic predisposition, there are things that we can do that affect whether genes are actually sort of turned on or off. That's an oversimplification, but I'll spend a little bit more time with this in a little bit. Anxiety, depression, and insomnia have all been associated with production of excess insulin. The body produces more insulin when cells lose their ability to use the message that insulin gives them. This insulin resistance elevates inflammation and stress hormones. Excess insulin deprives the brain of its steady supply of glucose for fuel, so it sends a strong alarm signal, further heightening the state of stress or anxiety. And what we want to do is consume more glucose, sugar. So we ultimately end up starving in a world of excess. And that's why it's a health crisis, a health epidemic really, is obesity in our particular culture. And a lot of that is informed by the level of stress and anxiety that we, as members of this culture, are experiencing. So what can we do to work with anxiety? Well, the first thing we're going to talk about is diet. And we'll talk about exercise. And in our tradition here in Kriya Yoga, of course, walking is something Yogananda used to encourage people to walk, brisk walks. But what we do is practice Hatha Yoga as a means of really exercising the body. Working with our sleep patterns, very, very strongly indicated in working with anxiety now is meditation. In particular, the research is looking at mindfulness meditation, but there's so many studies on a wide range of meditation practices. Before mindfulness, there was transcendental meditation, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's work in TM, and you probably know Maharishi through the Beatles, if you know of nothing else about him. And that particular approach alone, there are 600 published scientific studies that looked at TM. Now we have over 2,000 studies that have looked at mindfulness meditation. And often it's looking at how mindfulness meditation or these meditation approaches affect our resilience in the face of stress and how it affects anxiety, both physiologically and through self-report of our experience. So I wanted to start just by talking about diet, which I'm sure you know is a very significant part of the path of Kriya Yoga. We talk quite a lot about diet, and diet is an aspect of the yama and niyama rungs of the 8-rung ladder of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And Hippocrates, I love this quote, said, "Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food." Isn't that wonderful? Hippocrates. It's through diet and nutrition that we have the best chance to affect gene expression, to turn off illness genes like anxiety by changing the way we eat. And really, this is borne out in the research now very strongly. And so we're going to talk about this in some depth, but what I want to encourage you to think about is eat more brain-protecting food, like colorful fruits and vegetables, omega-3 fatty acids. Eat more brain-nourishing foods, like complex carbs, small amounts of lean protein, and again, omega-3. So brain-protecting and brain-nourishing foods. You've almost certainly heard this quote from Michael Pollan, who said, "Eat food, not too much, mostly plants." And that, if we could just keep that in mind, that little phrase, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And how do we define food? Kriyananda used to say, if it doesn't spoil, it's not food. And you can go to the store and you can find things without a shelf life, or a shelf life that says, 2020. Probably not food. A varied diet of whole natural foods, mostly vegetables, grains, and fruits, what we should be looking for. Eating a wider variety of foods, trying not to eat the same food 2 days in a row. So really trying to get a variety. If you're eating the same things each and every day, try to increase some diversity in terms of your food. It'll make it more enjoyable and probably balance the brain chemistry, which is really what we want to do. We want to balance the brain chemistry. And we do this through a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, especially cruciferous vegetables, things like kale and broccoli. So somebody's collard greens and Brussels sprouts. These are all tasty foods if you can prepare them right, and if you get off the sugar addiction. And we're probably not any of us addicted to sugar, but there are a lot of people who are, and maybe some of us are. So broccoli, kale, collard greens, Brussels sprouts. Try to have 2 colorful fruits or vegetables at every meal. If you're getting your colors, you're doing well. So trying to have at least 2 colorful fruits or vegetables with each meal: green, yellow, red, orange, blue, purple. Do you know there are blue potatoes?
Yeah.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
All this diversity of foods that we're in a sort of a monoculture period right now. But if you can go to your co-op or go to the farmer's market and get some of these amazing fruits and vegetables, it's just a delight. We need to reduce refined and simple carbs like sugar and white bread and pasta and most snack foods. Move to complex carbs like whole fruits, whole grains. If you can eat more diversity of grains, like moving away from wheat exclusively and eat wheat more sparingly, but eat more rye, millet, quinoa, oats, things that have to be cooked for you to eat them. Brown rice, spelt. These are all good grains to be eating, again, to affect our brain chemistry in a positive way. Eating lots of beans, and the darker the better, so black beans, red beans. Eating root vegetables, including small amounts of high-quality protein at each meal, like low-fat cheese, egg whites, whey protein. Trying to reduce animal protein, of course. It's an aspiration in Kriya Yoga to move towards a vegetarian, if not a vegan diet, and that we can certainly get enough protein through eating a good amount of plant protein like beans. And if you're vegetarian, you can still certainly enjoy low-fat cheese and egg whites. We want to eliminate high fructose corn syrup, of course, and all artificial sweeteners. We want to reduce or eliminate stimulants like caffeine that we might get through coffee or black tea. Certainly green tea has such a low amount of caffeine, and has amazing other properties, including antioxidant property. I would encourage you to drink green tea throughout the day if you wanted to, but trying to reduce other sources of stimulants that are much higher in this case, caffeine content. Cutting back and eliminating fried foods and baked goods. I'm a real sucker for baked goods, but if we can reduce those, it's healthy for us and for our brain. Not buying processed foods, and one rule of thumb: if it has more than 5 ingredients, you probably shouldn't eat it. And if it has ingredients that you can't pronounce, you probably shouldn't eat it. Trying to get our food that's been locally grown, organically grown, that's pesticide free, of course, if it's organically grown. This all serves us, and it helps us have a healthier brain, and it very, very definitely will reduce the levels of stress in the body and anxiety in terms of our emotional experience. And I mentioned this before, but trying to get more antioxidants like beans, fruits, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, cherries, apples, eating more vegetables that have antioxidants like artichoke hearts and dark leafy greens. I mentioned kale and collard greens, especially good. Eating sparing amounts of nuts. It's a little bit like the meditation practice of eating one raisin. If you can just eat one nut at a time, not handfuls, because certainly we can overindulge in nuts very easily. They're so tasty, but just eating sparingly, but daily doses of either pecan, walnuts, hazelnuts, that kind of thing, and getting good spices in our diet, things like cloves and cinnamon, oregano, as well as trying to add ginger and turmeric to our cooking. It has a lot of anti-inflammatory effects. So just adding those particular spices can really help with our both protecting and nourishing our brain. Turmeric and ginger, just encourage you to have more of those in your cooking. Using olive or walnut oil almost exclusively for your cooking needs. For salad dressing, using olive oil and vinegar for a very tasty and also a healthy salad dressing. It's very good. And something Kriyananda emphasized over and over again is making water your really your beverage of choice. You know, drinking water throughout the day, sipping water, not gulping it, but sipping it throughout the day, and really fresh, pure water, or as pure as we can get. And something that increasingly is being suggested as a way of maintaining a healthy brain is fasting. And this is something that we've done for millennia in the yogic tradition. And there are different ways you can fast. I mean, you can fast, you can do a juice fast where you're drinking some good vegetable juice over the course of 24 hours or 36 hours. Or doing a water fast where you're only drinking water for, again, maybe 24 or 36 hours. If that feels too difficult, and I know for some people, trying to have a fast of 24 or 36 hours is just, it profoundly affects some people in a negative way. Start with maybe a 12-hour fast. Just making note of when you last ate. For example, if you had a meal at, let's say, 7 p.m., that you would not break fast until 7 a.m. So you would go a full 12 hours. And if that goes all right, and part of that hopefully would be sleeping, good quality sleep. If that goes all right, you could extend it to maybe 16 hours. And then see if you can go a little bit further, go 20 hours, 24 hours, and ultimately you might even move into a 36-hour fast. And again, we're talking about balancing our brain chemistry, and fasting is quickly being recognized. This wasn't true when I started at the temple. The medical community wasn't so hep on the idea of fasting, but increasingly it's being recognized as a very healthy practice. And I never quite got that because, I would occasionally go to Lincoln Park Zoo, and they always had the cats, the big cats, fast 1 day a week. And I thought, well, they're practicing good yoga. The cats were, at least. There are any number of supplements that you might introduce to work with your anxiety, short of medication. And if you have anxiety that meets criteria for a DSM psychiatric diagnosis, you may even want to consider medication through your general practitioner or through a good psychologist or psychiatrist. Psychologists. There are some psychologists who have prescribing privileges, but very few. So you'd have to see either a psychiatrist who's a medical doctor or a general practitioner. But if you're finding that your anxiety is really debilitating, that it really limits you, it might be something to consider seeing about medication. We can all, though, probably benefit from some very, very useful supplements. And I'm not going to talk about these a lot. I think it's something for you to do your own research on, but I can give you the name of an excellent book. It's called The Chemistry of Calm, and it's by a psychiatrist, Henry Emmons. His name is spelled Emmons. He's a medical doctor, a psychiatrist in Minnesota. And he's written these two books that are sort of companion books, The Chemistry of Joy and The Chemistry of Calm. He's a meditator and also certainly very informed about good health practices. And so he talks about implementing meditation into your daily practice, daily routine, but also very, very importantly talks about food and nutrition and supplements that we can take as a means of working with our anxiety or with our depression. So The Chemistry of Calm, you can look to that for very good recommendations about some supplements that you might try, and just introduce one supplement at a time and just see what effect it has. And if it has a beneficial effect, great. If it has no effect that you can detect, then maybe let that one go and try another of the supplements. But there's increasing support, research support for a number of supplements that Emmons refers to. So in addition to diet, we all know that exercise may be the best medicine. Increasingly, again, there is this just an abundance of research coming out to show that getting our heart rate up is very important and very positive for our health, physical health, and our emotional health. So for countering depression and anxiety, really working the body is very helpful. And in our tradition, we would be doing hatha yoga as a means of really working the body in a way that's going to help us, with our brain chemistry, but with our overall physiology and well-being. Getting sleep is really key. And I'm talking about these practices or these observances in order because a lot of people find that they experience insomnia, especially if they're experiencing a great deal of anxiety in their life. And just talking about good quality and good quantity of sleep isn't enough. There has to be something else. And so attending to diet first, and concurrently perhaps getting some exercise built into the day, those two things can help a great deal with quality and quantity of sleep. Without those two, just talking about sleep hygiene may not be helpful. But things we know about sleep hygiene are important and useful. We know, for example, that going to bed at basically this or close to approximately the same time every day and getting up at the same time is going to be very, very helpful for again our brain chemistry and our overall well-being. So trying to set a time for your bedtime and not play games in the morning, but get up when the alarm goes off and not hit the snooze 3 or 4 or 5. I've been known to do that. It's just going to be much better for us if we try to get to bed at the same time, try to get up at the same time. And when we do that, in time we can notice, wow, I'm waking up, I don't even need the alarm. Because our body is very susceptible to rhythms. It's very, the body wants to be in rhythm. And so when we go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, a lot of times we don't need electronic devices to inform us as to, it's wake up time. We are just ready. We're ready to get up and get our day started. But doing these slowly, going to bed slowly, slowing down. We call this the ritual of the moon in Kriya Yoga. So, for example, in this age of electronic devices, turning off your electronic devices at least 30 minutes, but preferably an hour before you're going to try to go to sleep. The light alone, like the blue light, is stimulating to the brain. And so it's the number of people that I see in my psychology practice that are checking their phone right up to the moment of bedtime. And they have their phone right next to them. So if it buzzes or if something, they're awake, they're alert. And then they talk to me about not being able to sleep. And one place we start is put the phone in another room. Just put it in the other side of the apartment or the other side of the house. Try to practice detachment. try to separate from the phone at least for sleep time. And so getting ready to go to bed is one of these things, disconnecting from our electronic devices, not watching TV, not even listening to radio necessarily, but maybe doing some gentle hatha yoga, some gentle stretching before you go to sleep. But washing your face, washing your hands, and maybe taking some time. It can be very, very helpful to do a little bit of meditating before you try to fall off to sleep. If it's not your practice to meditate in the evening, maybe do some deep breathing. If your typical meditation practice is a morning practice, or you're not trying to meditate twice a day, then just do some deep breathing, and this can help calm the mind and quiet the body so that you can more easily fall asleep. But if you find it really still difficult to fall asleep, given all of these things, that you're practicing the ritual of the moon, you're slowing down the day, you're putting away electronic devices, you're washing and preparing for bed, maybe doing a little meditation or some deep breathing, and you still find yourself lying in bed unable to sleep, just rest. Just rest and see if you can just be with the wakefulness in a way that's not anxious, that's open to that experience. If you're not able to sleep, just rest. I've had the great experience of visiting Tibet in my life, and being at that altitude, and probably also the excitement of being in Tibet. I spent 7 nights there, 8 nights there, and probably not more than a couple hours of sleep a night. Now, a lot of people have that experience, and most would attribute it to the altitude. But the thing was, I couldn't sleep, so I just rested. Just stayed in bed. I didn't get up. I didn't try to go for a walk or anything like that. Just rest. And it does give your body a rest, even if you don't have the experience of actually getting some deep sleep, which is really important for us, and for good brain chemistry. One of the things we're finding out in research on sleep is that it seems that one of the things that happens in deep sleep is there's this sort of cleansing of the toxins, and just kind of a washing of the brain. I'm using it loosely, but there is it seems to be a cleansing, detoxification process. And in our culture that is very, very sleep deprived, it's not that much of a mystery why we're experiencing such high rates of anxiety and depression. It may very much tie to the lack of quality and quantity of sleep that so many of us are not getting. So if you're not able to fall asleep, given all of these things, continue to work with your diet, continue to work with exercise. And I'm going to talk in a moment about meditation, which can really, really help, I think, with the quality and quantity of our sleep. Nanda la la